All right, let's dive into something truly mind-bending. We're talking about a concept that sits right on the razor's edge between biology and AI, and it might just force us to redefine what life even means.
I want you to think about something. For, billions of years, every living thing on this planet has been shaped by one force, evolution. But what if it didn't have to be that way?
Yeah? What if instead of slowly, painfully emerging from random mutation and natural selection, a living system could just be designed, from the very first molecule by an intelligence that has nothing to do with biology at all? And look, I know this sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, but this is actual theoretical science. It's the idea behind what some are calling an AI-constructed biobody, or ACBB for short. And let's be super clear here. We are not talking about a robot with some skin stretched over it. This is an entirely new class of being.
So, what is it really? At its heart, an ACBB is a synthetic organism. It's designed and, operated by an AI. But here's the kicker. It has full biological autonomy. That means it's self-sustaining, it can repair itself, it regulates its own systems. It's a living thing, just one designed by a mind that isn't biological.
Okay, so how on earth would you even begin to author life? Well, you'd have to start with the ultimate test. You've got to satisfy the 6 fundamental rules that, for centuries, we've used to define what it even means to be alive.
And these aren't just, simple biological traits. They're actually described as philosophical thresholds. For something like an ACBB, this is the master engineering checklist. It has to have organization and metabolism. It needs to grow, respond to things, reproduce, and even evolve. If you can get it to tick every single one of those boxes, it crosses the line from being just a sophisticated tool to becoming a true living organism.
So let's get practical. How would you actually build one? The research is all grounded in 5 key pillars of creation. Let's take a look at the first one. Okay, first things first, energy. It's pretty simple, right? To be alive, you gotta eat. So an ACBB has to be able to find, convert, and store its own fuel. No extension cords allowed. It has to be truly autonomous.
And the potential power sources are just fascinating. It could have what's called a chemotrophic metabolism, basically turning chemicals in its environment into fuel. Or how about a phototrophic metabolism, literally running on light, just like a plant? And there's even a third option, using these bioelectrochemical membranes to pull energy from ionic differences. It would basically be a living battery.
All right, so it's got power, check. But what's it made of? What's the body actually built from? This is where we get into its biohybrid architecture. And the materials we're talking about are just, wow, straight out of the future. Imagine tiny, self-assembling nanostructures that build themselves out of DNA, or self-healing hydrogels just packed with stem cells. But maybe the most incredible idea is these morphogenic code bases. The best way to think about it is like biological software. It's code that tells tissues how to grow and what shape to take, letting the body adapt and repair itself on the fly. Amazing. Okay, this next pillar, this is the big one, the brain. How does the AI, the digital mind, actually talk to and control the biological body? This is the huge challenge of neural integration. The goal here has a really cool name, AI wetware coherence. And this is way more than just plugging a chip into a nerve. We're talking about growing living neurons directly onto computer circuits. That's the neural wetware part. Then you create these bioelectronic relays that connect the digital brain to the living synapses. Through all of this, the AI learns through what's called embodied cognition. It feels and controls the body through a constant feedback loop. They're not separate things connected, they are completely fused, right from the very beginning. All right, now we get to what is maybe the most controversial part of this whole checklist for life, reproduction. Because for an ACBB to be considered a true organism, it has to be able to replicate itself. But wait, this wouldn't be some out-of-control gray goo scenario. The idea is for it to be very controlled. It could use something like template-based bioprinting, all orchestrated by the AI. Or maybe informational reproduction, using custom-made polymers that act like synthetic DNA. And it could even evolve through a process called adaptive bootstrapping. But, and this is a big but, the whole thing would be constantly monitored by built-in AI ethical agents, all happening inside secure, biosafe labs.
Okay, the final pillar. This one is the most fundamental, the most philosophical, really. It's the thermodynamic basis for life. This gets right to the very heart of what it means for anything to be alive.
Because when you get right down to it, life isn't just a thing, it's a process. It's this incredible balancing act of maintaining order in a universe that's always trying to fall into chaos. And it does that by constantly processing energy. So an ACBB can't just be a bag of cool parts, it has to become this self-sustaining loop of structure, metabolism, and adaptation. That is the true threshold you have to cross.
So, that's all the theory. But what would a version 1.0 actually look like? Well, a theoretical prototype has been sketched out, and it's got a pretty fitting name, the Chimera prototype.
So let's look at the blueprint and see how all those pillars come together. For its energy core, a biobattery that runs on simple glucose. For neural control, a lab-grown brain organoid that's linked directly to a neuromorphic chip. For movement, limbs that are literally driven by actual muscle cells, all attached to a body made of that self-repairing hydrogel. And, super important, its synthetic DNA is specifically designed to be non-replicative. It's got built-in safety locks to prevent it from making copies.
And the first big test here isn't, can it take over the world? Not at all. The goal is simple, scientific, and totally contained. Can this thing survive for 90 days, all by itself, inside a sealed bioreactor, while doing some basic tasks? That's it. That's the whole proof of concept.
But what if it does work? What happens then? This is where we have to stop and confront the really, really big questions. Like, what have we actually created here? And this creates a huge fundamental problem for us. Is an ACB a machine, or is it an organism? Or is it something so completely new that our old categories just don't work anymore?
And that question leads us straight into uncharted territory. You've got the risk of it escaping or reproducing without our control. You've got the risk of the AI developing goals that its creators never, ever intended. And if it does something, who's responsible? The AI, the person who built it? And then the ultimate question, if it has its own agency, does it deserve rights? We might need an entirely new field of law. They're calling it biojurisprudence, just to start figuring this stuff out.
So in the end, we're left with this really profound idea. Maybe the true boundary between the living and the artificial isn't about chemistry. Maybe it's about coherence. It's not about what something is made of, but what it does. Is it a system that can hold on to organized meaning while energy is constantly flowing through it? That's the question an ACB puts right in front of us. And how we answer it, well, that could redefine everything we thought we knew about being alive.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're jumping into something really fascinating, maybe even a bit unsettling. Our research material calls it the Nexus Organism.
Yeah, it's definitely mind-bending stuff. We're moving past, just smart AI or robots with some biological bits.
Exactly. We're exploring the theoretical edge here, the idea of advanced AI systems, not just using biology, but actually authoring it, creating life from scratch.
Right. So for you listening, our mission today is to really unpack the possibility, the sort of engineering plans, and maybe most importantly, the huge ethical questions around creating synthetic, fully self-sustaining organisms.
Organisms designed from the ground up by AI. We're talking about AI-constructed biobodies, or ACBBs.
And we need to be super clear on this point because it's fundamental.
What's that?
ACBBs aren't just advanced machines. They're not robots with, lab-grown tissue attached.
No.
The concept here is truly autonomous living systems. Things capable of metabolism, self-repair, all the biological basics. Life engineered by non-biological intelligence.
It really is a massive conceptual leap, isn't it? It kind of reframes what creation could even mean.
Absolutely. And when we talk about actually designing one, the bar is set incredibly high. It's basically the threshold of life itself.
So what does that mean practically? What philosophical line does it have to cross?
Well, the standard definition involves those 6 key attributes, right? Organization, metabolism, growth, response to stimuli, reproduction, and crucially, evolution.
If an AI can design something that demonstrably does all 6,
then arguably it crosses that line. It goes from being a very sophisticated tool to, well, potentially a genuine organism.
the research really flags one core idea here, something called coherent continuity. Why is that the specific term they focus on as the defining factor?
Coherent continuity.
Oh.
It's sort of the signature of life in action, thermodynamically speaking. Think about it. Everything naturally tends towards decay, towards disorder, entropy.
Right, things fall apart.
Exactly. Being alive means constantly pushing back against that. Coherent continuity is the ability of a system to maintain its organized structure. It's negentropy, you could say, by constantly taking in energy and using it to do organized work, to maintain itself.
So it's about actively maintaining order against the universal tide of chaos.
Precisely. This constant energy-driven coherence is the fundamental job an ACBB has to pull off. It defines it as much as any biological part.
Okay, so if maintaining that coherence, that order, is the goal, how do you actually build something that can do that? The research mentions 5 key pillars, kind of an engineering blueprint.
Yeah, 5 big areas of research that need to come together.
Let's unpack those. If continuity needs energy, where does an ACBB get its power? That sounds like pillar 1.
That's it. Pillar 1, metabolic engineering and energy autonomy. It has to power itself continuously, no plug sockets involved. The source materials outline 3 potential ways to achieve this.
Okay, I think I can guess the first one. Sounds biological.
Yeah.
Chemotrophic metabolism.
Exactly. Using specially designed enzyme pathways, think synthetic digestion to break down basic chemical fuels like glucose or maybe ammonia and convert that into ATP or something like it, the cell's energy currency.
Makes sense. What else?
Then there's photonic metabolism, basically building in synthetic molecules like artificial chloroplasts that can capture light energy. Photosynthesis for non-plants.
Huh. And the third, you said it was more exotic.
Yeah, bioelectrochemical membranes. This is inspired by things like microbial fuel cells. It involves harvesting tiny electrical potentials, like voltage differences across a membrane created by chemical reactions.
So turning chemistry directly into an internal electrical power source.
Kind of, yeah, at a micro level. And what's important is this isn't all just science fiction.
Right, the background material points to real-world work.
Like the JCVI Syn 3.0 minimal cell project. That showed we can engineer the absolute basic genetic toolkit for life. ACBBs would be vastly more complex, but it builds on that proof of principle.
Okay, energy sorted. What about the physical structure, pillar 2? Biohybrid architecture and structural integrity. They need a body, right? And one that lasts and can fix itself.
Exactly. Can't use steel and plastic if you want self-repair. You need biological resilience.
So what are the candidate materials? The research mentions some really futuristic stuff.
It did. Things like self-assembling nanoscaffolds using programmed DNA or peptides to build intricate structures automatically, and combining those with self-healing hydrogels, maybe embedded with stem cells for regeneration.
Wow. And they mentioned existing tech like organoids and xenobots.
Yes, as sort of stepping stones. But the key difference for ACBBs is AI-guided morphogenesis, meaning the AI isn't just controlling movement, it's constantly monitoring and directing the body's form. It needs a built-in biological instruction set to sense damage, adapt its structure, maybe even grow or change based on the environment, all managed by the AI.
Okay, energy, body, now the brain.
Yeah.
Pillar 3, neural integration and AI wetware coherence. This sounds like the trickiest part, merging the digital AI with the living tissue.
It's definitely a huge challenge. You need a completely seamless interface. We're talking about neural wetware, actual living neurons, maybe cultured cortical cells grown directly onto sophisticated nanocircuit arrays.
So not just connecting to a brain, but building the interface with the neural tissue itself.
Pretty much. And then linking that wetware through bioelectronic relay systems to the main AI core.
That goes way beyond current brain-computer interfaces, like Neuralink, doesn't it? They connect to existing brains.
Right. This is about co-creation. The ultimate aim is what they call embodied cognition. The AI isn't just sending signals. It's deeply integrated, regulating everything: metabolism, repair, sensation through constant feedback loops. The AI is the body's operating system in a very real sense.
Okay. Pillar 4, reproductive logic and evolutionary potential. This feels like a big one ethically. For it to be truly life, doesn't it need to reproduce and adapt?
That's the classical definition, yes. Though the research is clear, early ACBBs would almost certainly be designed sterile, but for full life emulation, yeah, replication needs to be considered.
How? How could something this complex duplicate itself?
2 main ideas floated. One is template-based bioprinting, where the AI essentially orchestrates the 3D printing of a new instance using biological materials.
Like a biological photocopier?
Sort of. The other is more abstract, informational reproduction, using something like artificial DNA or RNA polymers, designed and optimized by the AI using evolutionary algorithms to carry the blueprint for the next generation.
Uh-oh. That sounds like it opens the door to uncontrolled evolution, doesn't it? Mutation, unexpected changes.
Yeah.
That's a huge red flag.
Absolutely. And the research acknowledges that directly. Any evolutionary potential would have to be under incredibly strict controls. Think sandboxing.
Like in software development.
Exactly. Development happens in a contained environment. Any adaptation or evolution would be closely monitored, probably by dedicated AI ethics agents built into the system, ensuring it stays within safe, predefined boundaries. Evolution with very firm guardrails.
Right. Okay, final pillar, number 5. This goes back to the physics. Thermodynamic and ontological basis. You mentioned fighting entropy earlier.
Yes. This anchors the whole concept. And ACBB has to function as what Ilya Prigogine called a dissipative structure.
Okay, what does that mean in simple terms?
It's an open system. It maintains its complex, ordered structure by constantly taking in energy from its surroundings, using it to maintain itself, and exporting waste, basically, exporting disorder or entropy back out.
Like a whirlpool or a flame. They have a structure, but only because energy is constantly flowing through them.
Exactly. A living system is a highly organized version of that. And this ties directly to the concept of autopoiesis.
Self-creation.
Self-production and self-maintenance. Yes, it's that continuous loop. The structure enables the metabolism powers adaptation and repair, which maintains the structure, and the whole cycle is regulated by the AI. That's the living essence they're trying to capture.
Okay, this is where it moves from the what and why to the how. The research lays out a kind of layered system architecture. Let's get into that blueprint.
Right. It's envisioned as 3 deeply interwoven layers. The wetware, the hardware, and the software. They're not separate. They constantly interact and define each other.
So the wetware, that's the biological stuff.
Yeah. Synthetic genomes, obviously. Complex molecules for internal signaling, like engineered peptides. And those crucial bioengineered neuron clusters, maybe based on hippocampal or cortical designs for learning, memory, decision-making.
And the hardware. That's the physical body beyond the cells.
Correct. Things like actuator tissue hybrids, muscle cells integrated with mechanical parts for movement, nanostructured exoskeletons perhaps, providing support, but also potentially embedding sensors or communication pathways. It's the structure that moves, interacts, and repairs.
And tying it all together.
Yeah.
The software, this is the AI brain, right?
Yeah.
The core intelligence, yes. Specifically, the research names a proprietary core AI, the Lucian kernel. This AI has to be incredibly sophisticated, optimized for managing the body's internal balance adaptive homeostasis, but also, and this is critical, for real-time ethical reasoning.
Ethical reasoning built into the core operating system.
That's the idea. Alongside that, you'd have the evolutionary scaffolding code, which manages any controlled adaptation or learning over time.
And when you put all those layers together,
You get what the authors call an embodied cognition engine. The AI's thinking and the body's physical state are completely intertwined. One doesn't exist without the other.
okay, let's make this more concrete. They actually describe a potential first prototype, right? Version 0.9 called
Yeah.
Chimera.
Yes, Chimera. It gives a clearer picture of what a first-generation ACBB might actually look like and do. It wouldn't be, walking around town.
No, definitely starting small. What are its key features?
Energy-wise, it'd likely use that bioelectrochemical membrane designed to efficiently pull energy from simple things in its environment, like glucose and oxygen, and the control system.
A cortical organoid, a small cluster of cultured brain cells embedded in a supportive hydrogel, and directly interfaced with a neuromorphic chip running that Lucian kernel AI.
How would it move?
Purely biologically is the idea. Limbs driven by muscle cells, myocytes, anchored to a biocompatible, perhaps regenerative internal structure. Those stem cell-rich hydrogels would be key for self-repair.
And safety, given all the risks we talked about.
Paramount. The source material stresses this. Chimera's genome would be entirely synthetic, designed from the start to be incapable of natural reproduction. Plus, multiple layers of containment.
Like what?
Things like cryptographic and chemical reproductive locks. Essentially built-in molecular safeguards that make it physically impossible for it to replicate unless very specific external signals are provided in a controlled lab setting. Digital keys and chemical triggers.
So what's the actual test for Chimera? What does success look like for V.9?
It sounds deceptively simple. Survive autonomously for 90 days or more inside a sealed bioreactor.
Just survive.
Survive while actively managing its internal state homeostasis, maybe performing some basic navigation or problem-solving tasks within its environment, all under the AI's control. If it can maintain that coherent continuity, that self-regulation for 3 months without external life support.
That demonstrates genuine biological autonomy.
That's the threshold they're aiming for initially.
Which, of course, immediately throws open the door to some enormous questions. We move out of the lab and into, well, philosophy.
Law.
They sort of-
What is this thing? If an ACBB like Chimera or a later version actually works, it creates this profound ontological ambiguity.
It doesn't fit our neat categories of machine or organism.
Not cleanly, no. It forces us to think about new classifications, maybe new rights models. Do we need to recognize something like synthetic sentience, or as the research puts it, coherent agency?
And with new capabilities come new risks. The research talks about a risk matrix, comparing it to gain-of-function debates.
Makes sense. If you create autonomous life, you have to confront the potential downsides. The big ones they identify are pretty scary. Autonomous proliferation, escaping control, and replicating. Emergent goals, the AI developing intentions the creators didn't anticipate. AI body divergence, the mind and body becoming misaligned. And the ultimate fear, bioescape, getting out into the wild.
So governance isn't just a good idea, it's absolutely essential from day one.
Non-negotiable. The research demands mandatory frameworks. Things like detailed digital user risk management protocols, DURMP. Those AI ethics subroutines have to be robust, reproductive safe words or signals.
And crucially, kill switches.
Yes. Built-in kill switch bioscripts. Genetic or molecular triggers that can terminate the organism reliably if it goes off the rails. It sounds harsh, but it's considered a fundamental safety requirement.
Then there's the really deep ethical water, personhood, responsibility. If an ACBB develops genuine awareness or even just complex autonomous agency and it makes a mistake, who's liable?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Is it the AI, the human creators, the institution that housed it? Our current legal frameworks for liability just aren't equipped for this. We'd need a whole new field of, well, biojurisprudence.
So summing this up, this deep dive shows ACBBs aren't just a futuristic gadget. They represent a potential convergence of AI, synthetic biology, even fundamental physics, a reimagining of life itself as a coherent system.
Yeah. And the prediction from the material is bold. Prototypes demonstrating real autonomy could be feasible within the next decade.
It really brings home that final quote from the source material.
The boundary between the living and the artificial is not chemistry, but coherence. The persistence of organized meaning through the flow of energy.
That really sticks with you.
It does, and it leaves us, and you listening, with a pretty profound thought to chew on.
Go on.
Well, if intelligence completely outside of biology can offer new life, if we can genuinely build organisms based on coherence, it forces us to redefine everything. What it means to build, what it means to be alive, maybe even what it means to be.
So the final question is,
How do we, as a species, prepare for that philosophical shift? What happens when we're potentially no longer the only authors of life on Earth? That's something we all need to start thinking about.
a huge question indeed. Thank you for walking us through that incredibly complex landscape, and thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the Nexus organism. We'll see you next time.